Let's talk about some cream blushes. Cringe. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a video that a few of you guys requested that I do, and then I saw Tati do it, and I was like, that's actually a lot of fun. So it is a top 3 in every category. This is just the things in my collection that I reach for, the top 3, and it required me to think pretty hard because I have way more than 3 favorites in any of these categories. So if you don't see what you think of as my ride or die product in the top 3, that does not mean that I don't use it. It's just 3 is a really tight limit. So I had to make some really, really difficult decisions, but it's going to take a while to get through these. So I'm going to go one by one. Let's go ahead and get started. Starting with primers. So you guys don't see me use primers that often. I usually do my skin prep off camera, but these are the 3 that I reached for different reasons. I love the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Primer. I love this because it's a hydrating primer. It is a really nice refresher for your skincare, and it smells really nice. I know that's not something a lot of people want in their makeup, but it's a nice smell and it doesn't linger. I find it to be luxurious, and I think it adds to the experience, but regardless, it's absolutely beautiful. It's got a little bit of slip to it, but it's mainly very, very hydrating. The next one is the Brilliant Face Brightener Illuminating Primer from Thrive. It's seen some love. It's definitely like knocked around in some travel makeup bags over time. This is not just hydrating, but it's also illuminating. So I didn't swatch the Pat McGrath because it's clear, but this one has some nice luminosity to it. So it just adds a little bit of brightness, a little bit of glow. It's so thin. It is so much thinner than the shimmer goos that you are used to seeing on my channel in my countdown of the best and worst shimmer goos, things like that. It's not gonna add a lot of slippy, serumy feeling to the skin. It's more just a little drink of water that also happens to have a little bit of glow to it. They do have a blurring primer, but if I'm going to pick a blurring primer, it's going to be this one. So this is the Rare Beauty one. This is called the Pore Diffusing Primer. I like this because it doesn't break me out. The Thrive one doesn't, but there are pore filling primers out there that are just absolutely kryptonite for my skin. The Porefessional from Benefit, for example, I've tried a lot of them out there. Anything that's kind of a putty consistency, it's just a nightmare. So this is incredibly lightweight, but you can see it does have that kind of silicone translucence. I'm sorry, opacity is the word I was looking for. And it doesn't completely mattify, which I really appreciate. It has a little tiny bit of like a dewiness to it, even though it is blurring. So I need that because I have dry skin. If I use anything that's mattifying, I have to be really, really careful. So I liked this because it just did the job without me really noticing it after the fact. And all of these will help both your skin receive the product better, so it's gonna make all the products that you put on top of them perform better, but they will also wear a little bit longer too. So that is my experience with them. Those are my fave primers. Now I cheated a little bit and I broke it down into foundations and skin tints because I just could not pick only 3 out of that entire group. So starting with foundations, the Eavesdrop from Fenty. I know this is technically a skin tint. She does call it a blurring skin tint, but it has enough coverage on it that I think, as far as, you know, in comparison to the rest of my collection, it really performs more like a foundation. It's going to cover my freckles, for example. It's going to be a base that better have a darn good match, you know, because if it doesn't, it's going to leave a line of demarcation kind of thing. And you guys know I'm not like, I don't think I really own anything that is completely full coverage. Maybe 1 or 2, but nothing that I really use on a regular basis. So this is about as close as it comes. I really, really enjoy this one. It has a perfect natural satin finish. It's slightly mattifying, but I just love that it has a more natural finish than other skin tints that I've used and more coverage. So I have found it to be absolutely wonderful. It does, just like anything will, but I do feel like it will accentuate if you have peely skin or anything like that. But I've found it to actually be pretty hydrating and long wearing for a skin tint. So nice. So forget that I said skin tint. I definitely meant foundation the whole time because, you know, it basically is a foundation as far as I'm concerned. This one's actually called a foundation. So if we're looking at drugstore things, this is Hello. I see the little box. It's nowhere near my hand. It's focusing on the deer. My camera's haunted. Anyway, this is the Skin Perfect HD foundation from Kokie. $12.99. This is a lovely foundation. I thought, and I say this every time, thought that HD was going to be something crazy full coverage, but it's not. It's very, very similar to the Fenty in finish, but I would say more coverage. But it's so pretty. For something that does have a really nice satin dry down, it's super hydrating and stays flexible on the skin. It's wonderful. I have seen a lot of creators of all different ages, all different skin types, skin wants, makeup wants, but all who I trust, the recommendations, really enjoy this foundation. It really behaves like a luxury foundation. It wears so beautifully, and especially on a bad skin day, it's really nice to be able to have something that has this much coverage to it and also still looks pretty darn natural. And I want to say that they have a pretty okay shade range, because I was sent 2 shades that are the shade 10, one cool, one warm. So I want to say that they actually play to a lot of undertones. So that is neat too. And finally, what I'm wearing today, and every single gosh darn time I see it on camera, I'm like, what am I wearing? It looks so good. And I will say, I had to deepen it just a hair because I apparently have gotten myself a gosh darn tan. You know, I moved to the Northeast and that's when I get the first tan. So anyway, this is the Bite Changemaker Supercharged Micellar Foundation. It does have a fragrance to it. It's subtle, but some people are quite annoyed by that. Doesn't really bother me. Quite silicone-y. It is, I would say, you know, just slightly less coverage than the Kokie. But on my arbitrary scale of coverage, it's about a 7. So that is she, and this is the shade L10, and this does have a very large shade range, super beautiful long wear, very flexible on the skin. They all have about the same finish, to be honest, just different coverage levels. But that is my preferred finish, is that, what is it? You know, it's not matte, it's not dewy, it's just an in-between kind of airbrushed satin finish. Hard to describe, but they all kind of have that, and why I like that is because it lends itself so well to being able to combine textures on your skin. You can powder it, you can not powder it, you can put cream on top of it. It's going to be really cooperative. They're all, at least on me, very cooperative. And that's a pretty good price spectrum. I think this is the most. I think this is $39.50, $32.50, something like that. This is $29.50, and then this is $12.99. So typically the next thing that I would apply would be like contour, but that's in the whole grouping over here with bronzers. So we're gonna wait on that, and I'm going to cover off on some setting powders real quick. So my top 3 setting powders are: 1, the Kosas Cloud Set. This comes in a whole bunch of shades, which is just wonderful. The top does want the hard pan just a touch, just a tippity touch. You just have to be a little bit careful and stay on top of it, you know, just wipe it off here and there with a paper towel or a regular towel or whatever. But what's so great about this, besides coming in a lot of shades, is that it just has a tiny bit of luminosity to it. A lot of times when we have the dewy face of makeup on, we will get reflection and light playing off of parts of our face that we don't really want reflecting. Under your eyes, underneath your nose, things like that. That's gonna throw off the appearance of your face. And so I find that this is the most uncomplaining powder as far as that's concerned. Like, you're not going to really add a lot of coverage with it, and it is going to set without mattifying too much. It's extremely finely milled. It is so nice. So if I do reach for a powder for that reason, it is usually this one. Now, you know, if Bite puts out more complexion products, sign me up, because these are all, like, so far so good. The next one is the Changemaker Flexible Coverage Pressed Powder from Bite. And yes, there are a lot of shades in this powder. You can see one thing very easily that is different between this one and the last one, and that is that there's absolutely no hard panning. I'm going to show this to you because I think it's impressive and I think it's important. It kicks up really easily. I know that that doesn't seem important, but what that means is that you don't have to work really hard to pick it up. I don't know how they do that in a formula. Like, I don't know what part of the formula really accounts for that, but the fact is, even with a brush that you've touched on your face and maybe picked up a teeny bit of moisture off of your foundation as you're mattifying, it's not going to hard pan. I don't know why. And I've gone through 2 of these, not gone through 2 of them, but I've opened and used at least 2 of them. And I've had the same really, really easy, user-friendly process every time. And finally, I cannot talk about a setting powder without, you know, talking about the nuclear option. This is the Veil Translucent Setting Powder from Hourglass. I think that as a society, as a universe, we have officially outgrown the idea of a translucent powder that is universal for every skin tone. And Hourglass is definitely a perpetrator of just blindly ignoring those things. But if you are looking for something that is going to freeze your makeup down, and it is going to add coverage, yes, it is going to make your makeup bulletproof for probably 60% of skin tones could get away with wearing it. I hope they put out more. But it is pretty translucent, but I don't really know how you can call something translucent when it adds coverage. But anyway, this is a bulletproof powder. All right, we are going to now talk about contours. And I don't have like a whole mess of contours, by the way. We're gonna try and keep that from happening as much as possible. I wanted a luscious, bouncy, juiced up lip today, okay? And if I get the white ring of death, so be it. And so these will probably be pretty familiar to you. The first one is the Uma Double Take Sculpt and Strobe Duo Stick in White Pearl. Just a fantastic contour shade. It's not too gray, but it's very, very cool toned for, I mean, not being confused at all with a bronzer, right? That is a contour. The next one, and the one that I wear almost every single day, Patrick Ta. That's why this is so nasty looking. Look at it, it's gross. This is, she's statuesque in the Cream Contour and Powder Bronzer Duo. They don't put the actual, I love his actual titles of these products. This one's called Major Sculpt. And it doesn't say Major Sculpt on it anywhere, but regardless. So that is those 2. Wow. And then the third that I have panned over and over and over and over and over and over and over again is the Salt New York contour. This was probably the first contour that I ever used where I was like, oh, that's what a contour is supposed to do, because it was the first one I had ever used that actually made a believable illusion on my skin. And I won't say this for all of her stuff because I don't know, but it appears that a lot of these things have, you know, the right amount or lack thereof of white backing behind them. And so this contour has a really, really nice translucence when it gets on the skin. I'm not gonna say it's completely transparent, it's not. None of these is, but you can see the differences here. The Patrick Ta is also pretty translucent. Like when I put it on my skin, I feel like it doesn't add any coverage at all. The Uma is going to add probably the most coverage, but it also has the largest shade range. So the Uma is a little bit rosier. The Patrick Ta is more translucent and a little bit yellower, and the Salt New York is the most like neutral. It is just so easy to use. So powder bronzers, because this is actually a combo that I typically do, cream contour, powder bronze. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in 1 Fair Pale. This I think comes in 4 shades, I wanna say. And this is the fairest, and it is very much my winter bronzer shade. It's almost like impossible to even see the swatch on my skin because it is so subtle, and there's something really, really lovely about that, to have something like that in my collection. The one that I've been using totally nonstop all throughout summer, really very similar undertone as you might expect, but just deeper in color, is the Patrick Ta. You can actually see that swatch. And then I have the Victoria Beckham, which I've been really enjoying, and you can see that one is also like almost impossible to even see on my skin, but I think that it's really nice to have this combination of all 3 of them for me, because I can build a little bit of the Victoria Beckham kind of here and it'll blend towards my blush. I can build more of that like sunny Patrick Ta. He loves just the summer skin of it all. you know, more is like a local color. And then, like I said, the Charlotte Tilbury is more my winter color. So I do love the fine milled nature of these two. I would say that the Patrick Ta is odd. It's a very strange powder formula because like that's what it looks like after a lot of use. It's not exactly the most like luxuriously velvety looking thing, but I've never had an issue with it going on chunky or anything like that. It just doesn't really look very nice. Yeah, as a person who has done many pursuits as it pertains to bronzers, I am very proud of what I have found for my skin because bronzer is and should be approached as such, as personal as foundation. You know, there are colors that you can use like blush and eyeshadow and things like that that are purely editorial. It's like, okay, you know, I can decide how I want my face to look, but if you use the wrong bronzer, it is like using the wrong foundation or the wrong concealer. I consider bronzer to be like complexion product. It needs to be very, very skin tone adjacent or it will look really, really, really weird. That said, let's talk about my favorite cream bronzers. So the first is the Fenty Cheeks Out in 02 Butter Biscuit. This is just such a lovely formula. And it's so funny because I feel like just because there's nothing particularly like standout hero product different about this formula, that people don't really talk about it that much, or they're like, oh, it's not my favorite. I love it. It's not sticky. For all of its dewiness, it's not sticky, and there's just something really, really nice about that. It doesn't have quite the thinness of like the melt blushes, the blush lights, but it's still really lightweight on the skin, and it blends so easily. It like really juices up the cheeks, and it's just such a cooperative formula. I like it very much, and I've had it for ages, and it's a whole lot of product for your money. I really appreciate that about it. So there's that. The next one, and this one really surprised me because I really thought that I was gonna be like the next deeper shade or whatever, but this is the, I wanna say light, hang on, I'm gonna pull the pan out and see. Yes, this is the Cream Tint Pro from Salt, New York in light, and you can see it's very peachy. What a nice bronzer shade to have on hand, something that's so peachy. It's almost a nude blush is a word that people have used in my comments, so I assume it's a thing. It's quite nice on my skin, especially as I move into wintertime, because trying to fake a tan when my whole body is like pasty newborn baby white, it's just, no one is buying it, okay? So that is a lot more believable of a shade on me when I'm like, haven't seen the sun. I'm a cave person. And then last but certainly not least, I had to put this somewhere. You know, it's kind of an oddball because there aren't very many products that are like this in my collection. I don't have a lot of quote unquote body makeups in my collection, but I could have done with a little bit of this today. This is the Fenty Beauty Body Sauce in the shade Pearl Swirl 01, another of her just ingenious formulas and in such a fabulous shade. So again, I have to give Kate the Great credit for pushing me to finally pull the trigger on this. This is, you know, $48 for a whole mess of product because it is supposed to be used, you know, everywhere. But that is the body sauce and it does such a good job. Hello, I know my face is in the frame, but can you focus? Thank you. It does such a good job of deepening your foundation in a really believable way, like mixing in and just, you know, not complaining. It just will mix with your foundation, or you can wear it on top of your foundation or underneath your foundation or all over your body or whatever. It turns into, you know, a pretty darn believable color on me if I'm, you know, if I'm actually trying and not, you know, blending really poorly. Okay, time for everybody's favorite category. We're gonna talk about blush now. I'm gonna start with powders. And in that category, first and foremost, the Skin Fetish Divine Blush from Pat McGrath. If you leave this video knowing anything about me, it should be that I'm in love with this formula. It's funny, she says blush without caution. That's what it says. Blush without caution, fabulous flirtations and sexquisite seductions may result with prolonged use. I don't think that she meant for it to be read in that goofy voice that I just did, but my point is, it is actually like blush without caution. You can just go and go and go. It's this beautiful, buildable, sheer formula, and the colors are so subtle and so nuanced and so gorgeous. I love Divine Rose. I will say, I think my favorite is actually actually this, whoa, do not fall on the floor. That would be very bad. That's something else. It's actually flirtatious because it's, you know, for my skin tone specifically, it is just so light. So light, so nude. It's like the luxury version of Exhale from PYT that I used to love so much because it's got that like amazing purple lavender, just cool everything off kind of vibe to it. I could apply this as the day is long. You know how when you're in the shower and you kind of like start, I don't know, scratching your own head or something and you don't know how much time you've lost because you just kind of checked out? That's what happens when I put these blushes on. I check out and I'm like, I don't know how long I've been doing this, but I have been having a really good time the whole time. So yeah, they make me feel so freaking pretty and they've got the prettiest finish on them. If you're wondering if these are worth the money, from a blush lover, yes, they're worth the money. The next is the Patrick Ta blushes. The Patrick Ta blushes, yeah, they're a little bit like finicky in terms of wanting to hard pan. They do want to hard pan a little bit, so you have to be careful. But the particular ones that I'm talking about here, the monochrome moment, the original ones, not the ones that are combined in the pan with the creams, those are great too. We'll talk about those in a second, but the original ones, so sheer, so beautifully sheer. And again, his stuff, like the way, when you use his powders, they take on this kind of not very pretty texture in the pan. They just don't look very pretty as you're using them, and I really can't explain why that ruffles me, but it does. It makes me think that this is gonna go on like really chunky, but it doesn't. It's so utterly beautiful. This is the shade She's Adorable. I have, I think, almost all of them, except for the ones that lean a little bit bronzery, but they're lovely. They're really, really, really nice, especially for someone who likes to watercolor, layer blush, just super sheer, super pretty. Like, don't be scared of the shades, specifically the monochrome moment, because they are all so subtle on the skin. And the final one is actually just this palette. This is the Aether Crystal Charged Cheek Palette in Amber. I love this because it is like the perfect set of peaches. They're very, very saturated, very different from the other ones that I was just talking about because those are very like watercolory. These are very like local color. They're going to be the main character, star of the show. The Patrick Ta one has shimmer to it, that She's Adorable shade. So you can see how sheer that is, and I really, really went in. This one's also really sheer, and these I just barely had to touch them. The beauty of that from the standpoint of Aether is that the Amber palette, like yes, the Ruby palette is meant to work on deep skin tones, the Rose Quartz palette is meant to work on very fair skin tones. The Amber palette works on pretty much all skin tones because it's so saturated, and you can mix it with this highlighter to get a little bit of dilution if you need to, or just a pressed powder or something like that for someone like me who wants to get just a little bit more sheerness out of them. But I find that I really only need to do it with this color. The Balance shade is just so ideal, and they look pink. They look pink in the palette because of the color of this packaging and contrast, but they're not. They are peach. They're like true, juicy peach, and they make me really, really happy in that respect. It's just a color I don't have anywhere else. Let's talk about some cream blushes. Cream. You know, guys, when it comes to cream blushes, I have a whole lot that I like, that are right there in the middle of good. And then there are like the exceptional ones that if my friend called me and was like, where should I start? This is where I think that they would want to start, especially from a beginner's standpoint, because there are some that are really lovely, but that I wouldn't necessarily recommend to like everybody. So here we go. The first, and I am gonna mention this, this is the Patrick Ta Double Take Cream and Powder Blush. So this is much more saturated from the powder blushes standpoint. It's a completely different formula than comes in the full pan of blush, but these creams are so dewy. I saw that they kind of didn't get Tati's stamp of approval, or maybe they did, but it was like a caveat. She was like, yeah, they're really, really dewy, juicy on the skin. I can't remember what the word was that she used, but I don't think that it was like a good thing to her. I happen to prefer that, mainly because, especially the way that it's packaged with the powder, he wants you to use the powder and then finish with the cream. And in that sense, I don't want a cream that behaves like a hybrid. I want it to add selective dewiness to my face and bring it back to a skin texture. So that is why I really enjoy this one. And I like that the creams in these particular, the Duo Compacts, tend to be a little bit more translucent. So they're going to work for more skin tones, and it just gives you more options in terms of how you want to wear them. They're not going to add coverage. And then the next one is the Tower 28, the Beach Please. I love these so much, and they've really grown on me. It's funny, like the old scene kid in me was just like, I don't want to like everything that's mainstream. You know, something in the back of my mind was like, everybody likes those? They must not be very good. You know, like, I don't know. It's dumb. Like sometimes my old teenage self just pipes in and is like, you need to be different. But sometimes the mainstream is just right, okay? And this is the shade After Hours, and it happens to be my favorite. I don't know, can you maybe see why? These are all Fjordsy shades. Now, I love all these formulas, you know, in any of the shades, but these happen to be, you know, the ones that maybe my, like, lizard brain pulled because I just happen to like these particular shades so much. And finally, as I mentioned, the Melt Blush Lights, the cream blush lights. This happens to be the shade Polished. Some of these are shimmery, some of them are not. I love this formula because it's so lightweight and it's the right amount of pigment. Very, very different from the other two. So the Patrick Ta, like I said, is going to be pretty translucent. This does have more opacity to it. So I have heard some complaints that even the deepest shades are a little bit ashy on dark skin tones. I'm not sure if that's like a general rule, but I have heard that in some comments. And the blush lights are medium pigmentation, and they all lean a little bit more towards like orangey tan than they do purple. My point is, they're all very, very different. They all have something to offer. These are a little bit more emollient on the skin, and this is like, it starts to lean towards like a dry oil kind of feel. And it makes it so that when it does go on the skin, look at that. It like blends almost like a powder, but it feels more like a dry oil, and it does add a really, really nice little like shimmery satiny thing to the skin that's just kind of not like anything else I have ever used. So it's wonderful. Did we completely skip concealer? We completely skipped concealer. Okie dokie. Talking about 3 concealers here. The first being the Kosas Revealer Concealer. It's just one of the best ever. And I would say that it is medium to buildable. You can almost get full coverage out of this, and it does have a tiny bit of mattification on the skin. So not fully matte, but it does go a little bit more satin than some that I like. The Thrive Cosmetics. This is their Buildable Blur HD Creaseless Concealer. What's wild about this is just the way that it blends. Wow, those are really similar, aren't they, in color? That's wild. So I have this in Fair Warm, and I have this in 01, the Kosas in 01. So yeah, the Thrive, when you blend it, at least with a brush, I always blend mine with a brush, I mean, it just goes, it looks like one of those commercials where, you know how the dumb commercials where they like try and show a concealer and they just like dot it 3 times and then they just go, and they're clearly not touching their face. Fuzz. Ruining my moment. That's actually what this does. I blended it the first time and I was like, huh? Like, where did it go? It's so wild in that sense. It blends so easily, and it's really, really hydrating all day. It's a phenomenal under eye concealer, but it is medium coverage. So, you know, weigh that against what you want from a concealer. And as full coverage concealers go, I like this very much. Like, I used to say that, oh, okay, this is the Pat McGrath. This is the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Concealer. I have this in the shade L2, and I used to say that I didn't like this under my eyes, but I realized that once I did enough skin prep, made sure that my skin was really juiced up before I put my makeup on, like right before I put my makeup on, this was fine under my eyes. It just will, it will sell me out if I'm having dryness underneath my eyes because it is so full coverage, but it also blends like a dream. And it is full coverage enough that you want to make sure you get, you know, the exact right shade for you. Talk about dialed in though. Like, those are all like my perfect kind of neutral leaning yellow kind of, you know, under eye tone. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting them all to be that freaking similar in color. So anyway, those are my favorite concealers. Okay, let's move on to eyeshadow palettes. If you want to know about the best and worst single pan shadows, I have a whole video on that. I'll stick it in a card. But we're just gonna talk about palettes here. These will come as no surprise to you if you have been with my channel for more than 5 minutes. So I won't spend too much time here. The first one is the new Wayne Goss, the Luxury Eye Palette. I was having so much trouble opening this, in Pearl. I mean, it looks like someone took an eyedropper and just like picked those colors off of my skin, you know? It's just easy. It's the easiest palette for a pale girl. Not to say that you have to be a pale girl to use it, but it's a really easy palette to use if you're a pale girl. It just works, you know? This celestial shade is exciting. Oh, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. I like it so much. His celestial formula is so wonderful. There's no fallout with it because it's super creamy. It's not a cream, but it's creamy. And all these shades just have the right amount of nuance to them. Like this brown is cool enough, but this gray is warm enough. And this pink is purple enough. And like this is, you know, warm enough. The whole thing is done really well. And I have not loved his previous eyeshadow palettes. And I think that it's not about it being low quality. It's about it not necessarily being for me. He put 2 more out before this, and he finally came out with one that was specifically for me. And it really is, and it's dialed in, it's perfect. If I was going to travel, like this is the one that I would bring. And that's not true. I would also bring my Thrive one because it's got, regardless, I think I could get away with just wearing this, but I would still need to bring like an eyeliner. That said, I have to talk about this. So, I mean, this is what I'm wearing. This is the only thing I'm wearing on my eyes right now. That and just some Aether highlighter, just, you know, to catch the light. But my whole eye look today is just this. This is the perfect eye palette in warm neutrals from Thrive. Look how gross she is. And this is the second one that I've had, guys. Like, yuck. I use this thing so much. So I love this because, you know, we got these warm shades that really make you look sultry and tan-ish or whatever, you know, it's a warm that a lot of people can wear. But also this brown is deep enough that I basically use it as an eyeliner in every single look. That's why I said that I couldn't only travel with that because my eyeliner is in here. But also this kind of gray color right here called Bethany, it is so great for building a believable illusion in my crease. And if for whatever reason, you know, that's not dark enough for you to do as an eyeliner or whatever, you just kind of shift everything over 1 notch and you end up with this really great black that I don't think I've ever used. I use every single one of them, but I don't use black. I don't use black on my face at all. I don't even use black mascara usually. I'm testing a new mascara today, but typically I'm brown, 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 even like dark, dark, dark brown. It's just because black on my skin, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to pull kind of blue and it will look bizarre and like ruin my whole makeup look. And so I always go like dark, dark brown. That said, this is designed to be such a good palette for a lot of different skin tones. And they do have the little focus eye palettes and everything like that, but like I love this warm white. It really cleans everything up. This champagne shade, I don't actually get that much use out of because I really go to this palette to build an all matte neutral look on my eyeballs. And it is just so functional and it's waterproof. I love that. So very, very good. And if you guys are sitting there going, surely she's not going to get through the eyeshadow palettes without talking about the Divine Rose palette, you would be correct. So yeah, I did just get the Utopian Dream and I love it, but like, again, it's like me, but dreamy, like just so creative and artistic and so pretty with so many different fun options, but all these tones are so at home on my face. I will not gush any longer. It is just such a good palette, okay? It's just really, really good. If you're new here, have a passion for these kinds of colors, these kind of like mucky lavenders, mauves that have like a dustiness to them because they work so beautifully as very native looking shadow shades on me and not eyeshadow, I mean like a believable contour. So, so beautiful. And you do still get some exciting ones. You get, you know, these really pretty like shimmers that are just crazy, crazy. And you get one really good confetti shade in there as well. So It is fun, it is useful, it is practical, and you know, for all of them that she has out, like this is the one that works the absolute best on me, and I never am not excited to use it. Oh my God, I also didn't do my skin tints either. I'm like this video is gonna be completely in the wrong order. All right, we're gonna go with mascaras and then I'll talk about skin tints. Sorry for unintentionally burying the lead. Anyway, this will come as absolutely no surprise to you guys because I just counted these down in a best and worst tubing mascaras video. So in no particular order here, we've got Victoria Beckham, Hourglass, Thrive. So the Victoria Beckham Future Lash, tubing mascara, the Hourglass Unlocked, tubing mascara, and the Thrive Cosmetics Liquid Lash Extensions. This one rises to the top because it comes in brown. So that is the main reason that it is my fave. But yeah, I just ordered 3 more of these. They're doing a thing now where I'm not sure it's all the products on the Thrive website, but you can combine 3 products in a certain selection, and it's basically like creating your own bundle, and they'll give you 10% off of the bundle, even if it's not like your first purchase. So that's what I did. I just bought 3 mascaras that way, and they were $21 a piece that way. Pretty neat! And free shipping. Okay, let's talk skin tints here. Another one, I did actually just recently round up, I think, you know, best and worst of these kinds of things, but I will make this quick. Glossier. Every time I use it, I'm impressed at how beautiful it is, and I'm like, why don't I use this more? It's super, super, super low coverage, so it is great if what you're looking for is a really great dewy, bouncy texture on your skin. I use G11. But as you can see, it doesn't matter that much. We're not exactly like agonizing over undertones over here. It's so light. The next one that I'm not sure if it's gone up again, but they did raise the price of this recently. This is the Typology Serum Tint in 1. I'm apparently just like digesting in real time. This one is, of the 3, I think the medium of coverage. It's just right there. You know, this is silicone free, and yet it behaves like it has silicone in it. It really does behave a lot like the Glossier, except it just has a touch more coverage. It's so utterly beautiful. It will make you look like you just have really good skin. I think that's what all of these do, actually. And then finally, the top of the price point, and again, also, I think at the top of the coverage level, but you know, we are splitting hairs here, is the Chantecaille Future Skin. It's a gel foundation, so I don't know, I don't think it has silicones in it either, and it is just pretty much my favorite thing to put on my face. Like, if we're talking about foundations, skin tints, all these things, like if we're rounding up, if you look at all of my favorites in that category, this one rises to the top of all of them. It is so worth, I hate even saying that, but it is worth the like $70 that this costs. $70, $80, something like that. It's so good. It's like skincare meets makeup, and it's so functional and gorgeous, and it makes me feel like a goddess every time I put it on. So yeah, fave. Okay, let's talk about lip colors here. This is my attempt at talking about lipstick because I don't really wear lipstick, you guys know that. So these are like my most pigmented things that I put on my lips, sort of like sheer lipsticks. The first, M Cosmetics, what do they call this thing? Lip Cushion Tinted Lip Luminizer. I cannot like remember that or retain that because Lip Luminizer doesn't really do anything for me, like the actual wording of that. But this is in the shade Venetian Rose, which is, you know, if we're talking about like beautiful mucky mauves, like that is like the quintessential mucky mauve. I love it so very much. I just happened to grab this shade. This is Ember, but this is the Glossier, what'd they call this thing? Ultra Lip. I'm like super lip. Someone sent me an article yesterday about mom brain and how it doesn't leave, and how we have trouble finding words, and so we just make up words to describe what we're trying to say. And I loved that someone couldn't remember the word thirsty, and they said water hungry. Like, that's so much better. I had one for burp cloth. I can never remember burp cloth. And I remember being in the hospital going, drool blanket. Asking my husband for a drool blanket because the baby was drooling. Anyway, that's the Ultra Lip, also very beautiful. And this is probably the closest it's a lipstick. This is the Matte Lip, the Power Move Soft Matte Lipstick in Sugar Buns. I have 3 of these shade-wise, but this is the new reformulation from Bite, and it's gorgeous. It's really, really pretty. I do actually wear these quite a bit because they have such a flexibility of saturation, like much like a gloss actually. You can really spread them out and you don't get like a whole lot of patchiness or anything. I find that they are just very, very agreeable. So that's 2, you know, semi-saturated glossy lipstick balm things, and then 1 that's kind of matte. But those are my top 3 in terms of lip color. And now we're going to talk about lip gloss. Oh, to say that there are honorable mentions in this category is such an understatement, but I had to whittle it down. And I pulled these because they were the ones that I saw. They're not necessarily my favorite colors. But first is the Kosas Wet Lip Oil. This is such a nourishing formula. And yeah, it smells phenomenal. It's so gorgeous on. Oh, this is the shade Dip, and it has a little bit of like a terracotta thing to it, and it's like a little bit shimmery. These are so, so beautifully nourishing. Just so great. I love them so much. You guys saw in my declutter, I had to get rid of Jellyfish, and that was my second one of Jellyfish because I had used it to the point that it was just lip backwash. It was so gross, and I was like, okay, I need to re-up on that. But yeah, Jellyfish is my favorite. It's just the clear. I pulled this one. I feel bad rattling around in these drawers because I share a wall with my husband and he's like on a call, and I was like, I'll just grab the gold one. The Glossier lip gloss. The clear is, you know, obviously my original favorite, but this is the one that just has like the gold glitter in it. I know that we talk a lot about liquid lip balms and how they are just a really, really lovely texture. The Vesca, the Rare Beauty, the Fit Glow, everything, like they're really, really wonderful. But if you're gonna actually like press me on what I'm gonna reach for, it's going to be a glassy, bouncy, probably sticky by most people's standards lip gloss. It's just what I like to wear. It's why I'm struggling a little bit with like a little bit of a white ring right now, but like, to be honest, I just like the look of them. I like the feel of them. They wear a lot longer than anything else. And I would say that the Kosas is the thinnest out of all of these. Obviously it's supposedly a wet lip oil, but it still wears a long time. But the thicker they get, the longer they wear. And then finally, the one that I was wearing when I actually started this video, this is the Pat McGrath Lust Gloss in Faux Real, and I love this color. It's like a freaking vanilla wafer. It's like the prettiest color. Oh, they smell so good. They smell like vanilla. Yeah, and you can see that has color. You know, that changes my makeup look. It's not just something that looks colored in, you know, the tube and then it goes clear on my lips. Like, it actually has a lot of presence to it. And ever since I tried the first, I have Divine Rose. Ever since I tried that one, I've like just collected these. Like every time I make an order, I'm like, man, I could definitely make use of another Lust Gloss. So I have Pale Fire Nectar, I have Dare to Bear, and I have this one. I probably have more, I can't even think, but every time they go on sale, I can always justify buying another one. But regardless, this is just such a lovely formula. And as you can see, you know, compared to even the colored shade from Kosas here, this is just a lot more pigmented, and it just has just such a lovely bounce. Like, it's just a luxurious formula. Just nothing wrong with that. I like a self-leveling formula, if that makes sense. So basically it's going to, you know, account for the little wrinkly bits in your lips where your lips bend, and it's going to smooth them out and be self-leveling. And that is why I'm willing to put up with a, you know, kind of goopier gloss. And then I have, where did it go? Hello? Guys, the stack of makeup that I've accumulated just from filming this video. All right, we got brows and we got highlighters, and then that's it. And that's good because there's an avalanche of makeup coming towards me. So brows real quick. I have absolutely fallen in love with the Refi brow products. If I had to pick top 3, like I do use all 3 of them, but I love the mousse because it has so much hold, and I even use it. It's the only thing that will hold down my regrowth from postpartum. And I've been really, really, really into this eyebrow pencil. And then the Glossier Boy Brow will always be my ride or die. Even if I try to simulate it with like 5 other products, I always end up reaching for it at the end. I will never be without this product. And then highlighters, For starters, I have the Aether Beauty. That is what I'm wearing today. It's just this really nice wet look highlight. This is the Supernova Crush Diamond Highlighter. It's just a lovely highlighter. And again, I used it on my eyes as well. It's like wet look enough that it like acts as a celestial shadow as well. It's beautiful. That's what the Aether looks like. It's just really reflective and lovely. The next one is, and you know, I cannot speak to the shades that exist now. I think Lit has been discontinued, but this is the Flex highlighter from Milk Makeup. And I would say they're pretty darn similar. It's a little more foily metallic and Lit is a little bit more gold, rose gold, but you know, it's more about that texture on the skin. You just find which one would look good on you. I think that they're all probably, you know, equal in terms of their reflectiveness. And then finally, yeah, we're talking about a cream. So it is actually this one right here, the beige, not the pearl, at least as far as my favorites are concerned, from Salt New York. This is the one that I use on a synthetic brush to, and I swear guys, there's just makeup falling all over the floor right now. I use this on a synthetic brush to actually, like especially when I have an all cream look, blend underneath my eyes. In fact, I didn't do it today. And what happens is it kind of diffuses it a little bit. It has almost no color payoff, no real like presence in that sense. It's just a texture. And so it behaves very differently than any other highlighter that I have in my collection. And so it will just kind of distort the way that the light hits. And so you didn't add coverage. You didn't really add like sparkle per se. It just blurs underneath your eyes so that you don't have that socket situation where like either physically your eyes are sunken in or your blush and concealer are like, you know, a little bit too disparate. Yeah, it's very easy to write off like a little shimmery pan of highlighter, but like that's some special stuff. So I really apologize to all of my earth signs and my Libras and depending on the day, my Geminis, for putting all this stuff out of order. I'm really sorry, but I did cover everything. So I hope that you guys found this valuable. I will have everything linked below. And if I didn't make myself clear enough, the amount of choice making that I had to do and the makeup products that I feel like I need to go apologize to right now is just so many, so many. So if you didn't see your favorite in here, I'm really, really sorry. And it does not mean that I don't still love them so very, very much. So anyway, guys, I hope you did find this valuable. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching, for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.